It's been a hot minute since I've done a dossier video, hasn't it? Yeesh. But now, I've finally decided to dip my toes back into the lore explainer pool for a bit. And to kick off this experiment, we're going to take a look at one of the playable races of Final Fantasy XIV, since I've been playing that a good bit for a while. They're large, they're in charge, and they are subject to a player stereotype so obvious I'm not even going to mention it. They are the Hrothgar. Why am I choosing the Hrothgar of all the in-game races to talk about? Because I have a secret. Because I am a Hrothgar player. Also, spoilers for the rest of the video, this will be mostly me rephrasing either in-game quotes or info from the wiki, maybe with a few sentences from myself along the way. Hopefully my presentation skills will get this information across in a more entertaining way than a simple wiki article though. Appearance-wise, the Hrothgar aren't exactly subtle when compared to the other races. Hrothgar are tall and muscular lion people, covered in fur of just about any color, along with some more standard-looking head and facial hair. They've got feline eyes and even have tusks of varying lengths. Males are notably much more commonplace than females, at least in the grand scale of things. It's not entirely confirmed to my knowledge, but it's possible that most females just never venture outside the homelands. As for why that is, well, we'll get into that later. Now, where was I? Right. The males are complete meatheads. Maybe not male Rogan level meathead, but they're definitely up there. This physical trait is so prominent, in fact, that it apparently prompts all male Hrothgar to stand and walk around with a hunched back, as well as preferring to wear harness-based clothing, or really any clothing that helps show off their muscles. Man, the jokes really do just write themselves sometimes, don't they? In contrast, female Hrothgar, while still rather muscular, tend towards more lean builds. This leads to them lacking that hunched back and broad torso of the males in favor of a taller and thinner sort of muscle. And while females also take to the general Hrothgar preference of wanting to show off one's physical strength through their build, most standard female Hrothgar clothing appears to be more covered up than it is for the males. Not that either gender necessarily needs much more in the way of layers given where they come from, and actually, let's talk about that. The Hrothgar, as far as the source is concerned, we're not getting into the reflection stuff here, originate from the middle continent of Ilsabard, putting them directly in the crosshairs of the Garlean Empire deeper into the continent. As a result, Hrothgar society as we see it has been fractured for a while, broken down and replaced by the Empire's direct control. Ilsabard itself is a land known for extremes in weather, from freezing colds in the winter, like that in Garlemald up north, to the more tropical weather seen closer to the coastline like in Thavnair. Presumably, the Hrothgar developed their furred, beast-like selves to accommodate for such an environment, with fur to insulate from the cold, as well as claws and sharp teeth to rip and tear at hostile wildlife on the coasts. It's rather convenient that Hrothgar prefer wearing less layers then, as the fur seems to be more than enough for the winters, and anything more might pose to give them a heat stroke in the summer. Kinda like huskies, I guess. If huskies were cats. And humanoid. Yeah, this comparison doesn't extend very far now that I think about it. However, on the note of Hrothgar clothing preferences, let's get into a bit of their actual society. A lot of the details we have on Hrothgar society and culture are somewhat muddled by the fact that we mostly learn it from outside sources. I mean, hell, it took us until, like, Endwalker to finally get there as players, when we were finally reaching the heart of Garlemald and the like. And by the time we get there, we see a society that's been fractured, as I said before, with only remnants of it really left. What we do see and know is that Hrothgar society is actually a matriarchal one. Whatever the internal details are, most Hrothgar are split into two clans, so to speak, the Hellion and the Lost. Hellions are Hrothgar who are currently dedicated to a queen, so they exist within some Hrothgar clan, be it a village, town, city, etc. that is led by a queen of which all the Hellions of that settlement dedicate themselves to being subjects of. Those who are not bound to a queen are known as the Lost, and they're the ones that you would typically see outside of Ilsabard proper. After all, there's not much reason for a Hellion to leave the settlement unless it was under the queen's orders or something similar. This is also why, theoretically, we don't see that many female Hrothgar in the wider world, because most are too occupied with the mantle of queen to become adventurers. They even have naming conventions for each clan. Hellions will simply take on the name of their queen as their last name, who themselves will usually name themselves with something starting with the letter A, and the Lost, meanwhile, will add SCH to the end of their last names as a way of denoting their lack of a queen, or that the queen is dead or missing or something like that. By the way, we're also separating the Hrothgar that you find in Tyrol from this, as they don't seem to have any real connections to the primary Hrothgar peoples found in Ilsabard. But in general, that's what governs their society as a whole, and while the destruction of most of it at the hands of Garlemald has led to most of our experiences being with lost Hrothgar, their dedication to a queen has shown them to be a rather resilient people, as evidenced by the existence of the Boja Front. And that's a general overview of the Hrothgar. So if you didn't know that much about them, or maybe you were considering making a Hrothgar character, there you go. I hope you enjoyed this little diversion from the usual kinds of videos I make, and maybe I'll make more lore videos in the future again. Whether it's FF14 lore is another matter entirely. Either way, I hope you enjoyed. This has been TheRatMan, and I will see you all later. And lastly, a special thank you shout out to Mike Uniturtle, Scarlet, and Dizerat. Thank you for the $5.